process from some kind of, it creates a debris field, and it creates a disk-shaped Milky Way galaxy. Well, along the center line will be where the most dense material is. So you're going to have denser dust. You're going to have larger hard objects like meteors and asteroids and so forth. And they're actually maybe more than likely static. They're sitting there not moving, and the solar system that the Earth is in is moving at incredible speeds through this elliptical path, because the entire solar system itself rotates around another black hole, another star, would be easier to say, another sun, a very powerful sun, and our sun rotates around that one, and so we rotate with it. The solar system does. And so, yeah, as we get closer to the center, there's more dust, there's more debris, and that's why we're seeing near misses, and that's why some of these are coming below the satellites, even lower than the satellites we have. And we don't know what's there. I mean, this isn't, these are not asteroids and meteors that we've charted that come by and fly by and go back out. We're talking about just a debris field. It's kind of like some of the movies you might see where a spaceship is navigating through an asteroid field or something like that. So, yeah, that's what we're doing. And that could cause a once only extinction level event, which is what they're really concerned about is an ELE. And that's probably why we see these extinction level events every 12,000, 13,000 years, because that's how long it takes us to cycle as we go through the center line of the galaxy. And we're coming up from the south side. We're coming, how can I say this? As we approach the center line, we're coming up from below. But anyway, but that's not the direction that the purported Nibiru or Planet X is coming from. It's coming from below that. It's coming from the South Pole.
Yes, well, I have some fascinating information that came through from one of my newest interviews that I did in Florida. And they're talking also about a huge plot that involves really at a distant level the planet Nibiru, but it's actually much more complex than that. And apparently they're saying something has happened to shut down the sun, and that it will shut down gradually, and that will be in about 200 years. So I don't know if that can be scientifically proven at any point, but I do know that we just had a renewed solar flare from, the solar maximum that we've seen so far, and I don't know if you're aware of that. Are you?
No, I haven't been tracking the flares. I know that they do have, we have a new class flare that we had to categorize during the solar minimum we just came from. Now we're in solar cycle 24, and we're headed for it to peak in, well, it was supposed to be 2011, mainly 2012, and it got delayed, but they think it's delayed, but it really isn't. We're still in that cycle. It's just that, you know, as we cycle into it, it may become more active, but there are so many things we don't know, Carrie, that can affect the sun, and primarily what we need to keep our eye on is the sun, because it'll be the thing that makes it or breaks it, so to speak, for the planet.
It appears that that's the case, but I do want to say that I'm actually looking so I can read from this particular piece of information for everyone out there who's listening right now. Apparently it actually started on Monday and was aimed towards, you're talking about a coronal mass ejection that was, it's not one of those kill shots as they call them, in case you're familiar with that terminology, but that it is headed to the Earth, and it would probably have arrived Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because it starts on Monday and apparently takes a certain number of hours to actually arrive, which is really interesting. But at any rate, this is the information that we have got. It's out there on the internet, and it was the strongest, highest rated one so far, I believe, that has actually hit the Earth. Now, there have been some that were larger, I'm sure, that have not been aimed specifically at the Earth, and that makes all the difference, obviously, for us anyway.
Right. Well, to kind of put this in a perspective so we can kind of understand how important some of this is, 2/3 of the gamma rays, now there's some let's just call them cosmic rays. They come from outer space, and that includes the sun, primarily all the damaging rays that can hit the planet that can cause us problems, make us sick in a variety of ways, come from our own sun, but there are others that come from outside the sun, out of the solar system, and of course the galaxy. One of the things to remember then is that 2/3 of the bad cosmic rays that come to the planet are blocked by our atmosphere. And tons and tons and tons of air molecules stop that mass that's called air. It doesn't seem like it's very massive, but there's a lot of it there that stops those rays from coming through because it just has to go through so much that it stops it. It's what keeps us well and from getting damaged. Another 1/3 of those cosmic rays are stopped by the magnetic field of the planet. So that is what is most concern, is that the magnetic field stay healthy, because if it begins to flatten out, and what we mean by that is if we go through the galactic plane, the pull of the gravity waves could actually flatten out the magnetic field, although it might still be there, and it's getting weaker all the time. And as of late, we've had some holes, as you know, we've all heard. And if it were to flatten out, the entire exposed surface of the sun, depending on how long it lasts, could create, will allow 1/3 more of the damaging rays to come through. And that's what could cause some really bad healthy situations. And it wouldn't be instant. It's not an instant thing, but it creates genetic damage.
Okay, the information, actually, I just came across it. It basically is saying, and this is from Mitch Batros, Earth Changes Media, and a lot of people will be familiar with his website and his information, which is quite accurate, scientifically speaking. And he's saying that the most powerful geomagnetic storm since December 2006 struck the Earth on Monday. And so what happens after that is that it takes a few days to actually arrive here. And I guess NOAA issued a space weather advisory on Monday. And that would be going towards space shuttles and the International Space Station personnel, supposedly. And I have to say, I'm sorry, because I'm very, I'm very skeptical whenever I hear anything about anything like this, simply because there's going to be a lot of other sides to the story, a lot of deeper levels. We only get the most surface level of information, obviously, in the general public. So unless I have a whistleblower that's telling me different, I'm still going to be very skeptical of what I'm hearing. However, the geomagnetic storm definitely happened and was definitely aimed towards the Earth, apparently. And at some point, what happens is that it affects not only the electronics, but it affects the psychological sort of mental state of the planet. And so it's just something to think about. I don't know whether people are experiencing this, but there's a lot of chaos out there, it seems to me, at the moment. And things like a geomagnetic storm will be a manifestation on an even larger and higher level than, just somebody yelling at you in traffic or whatever happens to manifest in your reality.
Well, that's the case, Carrie. It's reflected. Those storms are literally reflected on the stock market too. They've tracked.
That's correct.
Storms connection. So yeah, there is a definite behavior connection, And it makes sense.